And I wanted to get to one question about more foreign policy because not that long ago, G. Edward Griffin actually told us here at WHAM that the only justification for coercion is in the defense of life, liberty, and property. I wanted to ask now, Obama's administration has largely been behind arming and funding ISIS alongside the CIA, all while dropping bombs on villages, killing men, women, and children, and angering locals. So from an anarcho-capitalist perspective, how do we tackle the issue of ISIS without continuing to be the policemen of the world and creating more problems?
I'm so glad you asked me that question, because I find that AnCaps, and this is me criticizing my fellow AnCaps, they kind of dodge those kinds of questions, because my thing is that at the end of the day, no matter whether we like it or not, we know how they were created. At the end of the day, you have this crap fest of ISIS who are, killing innocents. And it's not just ISIS. You got like Boko Haram doing it in Africa to a great extent. So my thing is like, you have to, you got to kind of, because what we do now, our foreign policy just keeps endorsing this and keeps kind of, I guess, funneling the fire, whereas it keeps growing and growing and growing, and new terrorist groups here and there. So you got to stop that. This whole, all right, we're gonna this nation building and all of this. We have to stop with all of that. We got to quit funding rebels who inevitably turn into people that want to shoot innocents in the face. We got to stop that kind of attitude. But my thing is, and I feel like I've seen the AnCaps go left and right on this, not necessarily in terms of the political spectrum, but just to say that they go opposite ways. But in my honest opinion, I think that the biggest focus has to be with letting citizens arm themselves here, because you got to understand why they're able to get away with all of this. The reason why I guess the American government, and not just the American government, you got other United Nations that are kind of participating in I mean, we can call it what it is. I mean, really, it's not a whole lot that separates them from ISIS in a lot of sense.
Sometimes they are ISIS.
Well, yeah, but my thing is, you have to. The reason why they're able to get away with that is because some of the guys of, all right, we are protecting the American people. That's how we're protecting the people of our country, because if these people get over here, they're going to expand and they're going to come infiltrate, America, or infiltrate this country, and they're going to bomb these people. And my thing is like, all right, let's assume that that's going to be the case. What you're doing right now isn't stopping. This is why I try to, and I guess I've had the most success in converting those neocons, in which, all right, you kind of understand it, because they understand it in a sense, like, all right, well, we got to protect ourselves. That's why they're so pro Second Amendment and other things like that. So they kind of understand the idea, but they just start bootlicking, really is what it is, when we start talking about military and things like that. So why they are so fond of military, because they think they're giving them this sense of security, is what it is. I mean, which is admirable. That's admirable if that was what they were doing. Anything, people securing people, I find that admirable, because you're putting your life on the line to protect other people. That is admirable to me. But you got to understand, that's not necessarily what our military is doing. So I think it starts back at home. Obviously, you want to stop what you're doing over there, but I think it starts back at home. If the idea is to really protect the American people, you got to allow them to protect themselves. And that's where the Democrats, more so the leftists, are winning, because they're so pro-gun control, in which I guess they really allow said military expansion to take place, because it's like, all right, well, you can't really. I mean, we've made it harder, significantly harder, for you to protect yourselves. So you got to depend on us, and if you got to depend on us, you got to kind of deal with us bombing innocent men, women, and children overseas. So it's a hard subject to tackle, but I honestly think it really starts at home. If the idea is that you're protecting people, then why don't you allow them to protect themselves?
Yeah, all you have to do is basically look at Chicago and see why gun control is obviously. If you're not going to buy in, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, but I think that's the perfect example. I'm one of those guys that I'm always talking about, like, not always, but I tend to sometimes talk about, race and a lot of these African American communities, in which is, it's war grounds in a sense. People airing each other out, but they are so like heavy on gun control, and it's like the most blatant example of, all right, this isn't working. This is not working. The people that want to protect themselves from these type of individuals, these guys that are actual criminals, because there's actual victims, innocent victims at that you make it significantly harder for them to protect themselves.
Well, isn't it always funny how liberals will often say, well, the prohibition of marijuana is only making it worse, but guns, those need to be banned because that will make it worse.
Logic goes, and that's the example I use. I mean, it's like that with guns. I mean, they say that, all right, well, like they like to think they understand the war on drugs, and they say, well, it's creating these and I'm all kind of for black and gray markets, but I understand what they're saying when they say black markets in terms of the banning of drugs. Has created these black markets, and what they mean by that, they're talking about like drug cartels and things like that, which is creating these dangerous scenarios. But they understand that, or they like to think they understand that, but the logic just goes out the window when you start talking about other things like guns. You start talking about guns, it's like, all right, well, don't you think if you ban that, it won't be another type of, a dangerous black market in which people will get killed, innocents will get killed, just so people can get these said guns. But this type of logic just goes directly out the window, and I don't.
No, and I like how you kind of strung together the right to self-defense with what's happening with ISIS and everything, because isn't it always interesting how the United States will be the policemen of the world? They'll go over there, they will create thousands of enemies, or millions, I should say, massacring innocent people. Then they arm and fund these rebel groups that emanate themselves as ISIS, and then they take away the defense of the good people within the United States of America, and then they draw a big red target and say, come on over here. And it's the logic is there isn't any. It's not even worth. Yeah.